All right, I think we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Sean Murphy with 1455. I am really excited. Been looking forward to this for months to kick off our 1455 interview series. The idea of this, as opposed to our monthly author series that we typically do at the Hanley Library, and we're for the foreseeable future doing online, is we do a deep dive with an individual author, talk to them about a recent work, had they read from the work, and we have a lengthy Q&A that involves the audience. The idea of the 1455 interview is 14 minutes and 55 seconds, and we ask as many questions as we can get in that time. It's a both deep and quick dive to see what makes a particular author tick. And for the first interview in this new series, there is nobody I thought of before I thought of my good friend and someone I'm a big fan of, Bethanne Patrick. She's on our advisory board, 1455. She's a dear friend, and she's a role model for me as someone that really lives the literary life. So if I can, let me introduce her, read her bio, and we'll bring her on, and then we'll get down to business. Bethanne Patrick is also known as the Book Maven. If you don't know that on Twitter, you should start following her because she has a following, which she well deserves, and there's always interesting things going on, and your book list of things to read will grow accordingly. She's a writer, author, and critic whose column about hot reads appears monthly in the Washington Post. Her books, An Uncommon History of Common Things with John Thompson and An Uncommon History of Common Courtesy, were released by National Geographic in 2009 and 2011, respectively. Her anthology, The Books That Changed My Life by ReganArts in 2016. She's currently working on a memoir for Counterpoint Press. Bethanne Patrick, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Always a pleasure to see you, my friend, too. So excited to do this.
Well, thank you for, while I have you, you were, as usual, a rock star for us with our recent literary festival. And
that was great.
As everyone knows, if you go to our YouTube page, all the videos and all the sessions are recorded for posterity, and we'll be putting them on social media once a day for the next month. So, Bethanne, I am going to hold up. This is our shtick. I've got my timer set to 14 minutes and 55 seconds. I will click start, and it's go time. All right. First question, what is the book that made you want to be a writer, or what book changed your life?
Okay, I've answered the question about the book that changed my life a lot, and I answered that in my anthology. So I'm going to talk about the book that made me want to be a writer instead. And this is a very strange choice, but it goes way, way back to childhood, and it's Harold and the Purple Crayon. Do you remember Harold and the Purple Crayon?
I don't know if I've ever read it. I certainly have heard of it.
I don't even remember the author's name right now. It's a classic childhood picture book. But the reason it made me want to be a writer is the boy Harold, who's just sort of a bald, Caillou, that little freak. He's like a little bald kid, but he has a purple crayon. And instead of coloring inside the lines, Harold just goes where he wants with his purple crayon. He draws squiggles, he draws circles, he draws every shape that he knows, and he keeps going. And every page you turn, Harold's doing something different with his line. It's crazy. And that made me want to be a writer. I know it sounds really crazy, but I thought, I want a life where someone is following along like that. Someone's turning the page. I knew it when I saw it, and I've loved that book and read it lots of times to my own daughters. And so I really think that Harold and the Purple Crayon had a big influence.
No wrong answers. That's a great one. Okay. Impossible question. So it doesn't have to be the single one, but your most profound artistic influence is?
Gosh, I probably should be going faster with these, Sean. Oh my gosh, I got to beat the clock. My most profound, Annie Dillard.
Okay.
And I don't write about the natural world per se. Maybe someday I will. But the first time I read Pilgrim at Tinker Creek in college, I thought, it's for some people, and I've read Toni Morrison, and Toni Morrison is pretty profound for me, but Annie Dillard, it was like all of the scales falling away.
Okay, excellent. How about an album or movie that you recommend without reservation?
Huh? Oh, that's such a good question. Well, my first recommendation has to be Moonstruck. I think if you don't really connect with Moonstruck, maybe you won't ever connect with me, which is fine. Not everyone has to, but I absolutely unreservedly love that movie, not just for its performances. I mean, Cher, didn't she win an Oscar for Moonstruck?
She did indeed. Yep.
But Vincent Gardenia and Olympia Dukakis and Nick
Amazing.
Cage, amazing, every single one of them. So there you go.
One of my wife's favorite movies, and mine as well. I saw that in the theater when it came out, and have seen it.
Yeah. Remember theaters?
Let's not even go there.
I know.
Okay, another impossible one. Best first or last line in any book ever. I know for you that's really like trying to get the salt out of the ocean, but just name one. I know you've got some competitors.
Well, I really don't think you can beat a classic like it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And also happy families are all alike. So it's between Dickens and Tolstoy for me there. And I wish I were more creative and had something more obscure, but
when in doubt, go with the absolute classic. And that's a perfect opportunity for a pitch for our good friend Jay McCullough, whose memoir, All Happy Families, of course, invokes that immortal Tolstoy line. Here's a good one. I know you're going to love this one. You can go high or go low. Most underrated or overrated author, in your opinion?
Well, I'm going to mention one that I think is highly underrated. It's only one book, and it's a very difficult one, In Parenthesis by David Jones.
Okay.
And this is from World War I. It is sort of a poetic novel, a novel in poetry. It's in fragments. And I think it's highly underrated because to me, it's one of the best novels we have about the futility and absurdity of war. That is not a comic novel or a war novel. It's about really breaking down. It's about what they used to they called shell shock in those days. They called it soldier's heart. Or maybe they called it soldier's heart before World War I. But anyway, that is so underrated to me. Now, overrated, I'm going to have to go with To Kill a Mockingbird. Don't at me. I just think it is not all that it could be. And I think it's a wonderful period piece now, but yeah.
Period piece. Perfect description. Love it. Why have you not read Moby Dick?
Oh man, is that one that you ask everyone, or is that just for me? I know. I'm so embarrassed.
Everyone's gonna have to answer that.
But it's true for me. I think I told you that when when we were talking a couple of weeks ago when you were away. It is a big shame of my life that I have not read Moby Dick. And my friend Erin McHugh is going to be so angry with me because she participates in the yearly New Bedford, read along of Moby Dick. It is everything to her. She lives on that coast, that little part of Massachusetts that people don't realize is still, it's underneath Habanera and such. So anyway, I haven't read it because it just didn't happen to be on the curriculum in high school for my English classes. And then the years went by and there was never enough time. So next summer.
Well, and you get a pass if for no other reason. There's nobody on this earth I know that reads more books than you. So I'm not going to hate. I've got nothing but respect. And of course, I have to ask that question is strictly business. Talk about your writing routine in 1 minute or less, or do you have one?
I do. And I have one more than ever because I've been working on this manuscript and the manuscript is done, which is fantastic.
Congratulations.
And we're going into revisions. Thank you. And so I finally, over the past, I would say 5 years, really developed my writing routine. And I know some people get on that train earlier, some people later, but for me, here's what works. I do morning pages. Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way morning pages. And I know some people sit up and write them by longhand in bed. I get up, do the crossword, get my coffee, and then sit down and type my morning pages. Once I've finished those and gotten, urgent emails and things out of the way, I spend 2 hours every day on new writing. And that might be the memoir right now because we're in revisions and my editor's going over it. It is working on a novel manuscript that I have. And
Yay.
then I take, and this is the controversial part, I take 2 hours in the middle of the day to eat, walk, read, and sleep. And those are non-negotiable for me. Because you know what? If we were in New York, Sean, and we were working as writers in New York and in New York publishing, we would be at long lunches every day.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is, my time. And that's when I do work reading. If I'm working on a review, and then after that, I go back to writing the review,
Okay.
revising the day's writing, and I have learned to close up shop
Good for you.
in time for cocktails. 5 or 6, I'm done. That took a long time to learn.
The daily walk is the new 3 martini lunch, according to Bethanne Patrick and Sean
It
Murphy.
is, absolutely. That is true. We can make a little logo or graphic out of that.
We will indeed. Okay, here's one. Talk briefly, if you care to, about the most significant failure in your life, particularly as it might relate to writing.
The most significant failure in my life would be not deciding to pursue the writing life earlier in my life. That would be it, because I was told by too many people that it was an impossible dream, that it was something only people with trust funds could do, that writers never did anything, made anything. So that, there you go.
I have a feeling we're going to hear that from other people too, or variations on the theme of "I wish I had taken it seriously sooner."
Yes,
because we
exactly.
all need to write badly before we write well.
Well, I said on Twitter today, and I think this is worth it because after all, I'm the queen of Twitter in some ways. A friend, Dan Blank, who is a creativity consultant, said, your resource is not your time or your money, it's your creative energy. And I retweeted him and said, if you don't believe this, listen to me, because I pursued more time, more money for years. And it wasn't until I thought, I need to conserve my creative energy that I really found integration and fulfillment.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Define or explain what literary success means to you.
Literary success means to me living and working as a writer and pursuing the writing. I really believe that when you're doing the writing, you can't be thinking about audience. You can't be thinking about where you're publishing. That comes later. And so that's what success means to me, is putting myself into that writing.
That's a very inspiring answer. I love that. This sort of ties into what you just talked about, but what do you wish you had known as an artist 10 or even 20 years ago?
Probably how much you'd expect someone to say how much the internet was going to change things, right?
Yeah.
But what I am amazed at is how many print publications I'm still writing for, reviewing for, newspapers and magazines. And I wish I'd known that you don't need to pay attention to the shiny new thing necessarily, especially, again, to go back to the last answer, when you're putting yourself into your writing. Just do the writing, see what comes up, see what interests you, and then find a place for it.
Right on. Have you ever visited a writer's retreat? And if so, how was that experience?
Oh, it's not a failure. It's a great disappointment. That was supposed to be one of the things I did this year.
That's right.
I was accepted for residency at VCCA, yay, Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, to go to the Mount. And I was so excited about it was going to be almost 3 weeks there, but unfortunately, COVID happened. And then at first they were going to reschedule everything for this fall, but COVID is still happening, sadly. So right now, I'm hoping that sometime 2021, I'll be able to pay for. I'm concerned. What I've heard from everyone is just fantastic. I've never heard a bad thing about going to a residency.
Nor have I, which is one of the reasons that I decided to start one.
Exactly.
Is there a particular book that you wish you had written?
Oh, that's a question I love, love, love so much. If I could have written any one book, it
Mhm.
probably would be, I want to say Middlemarch, but
Mhm.
I don't think I could. I think that's just too great. Although I'm not being fair to either of these authors, I think To the Lighthouse. I
Mhm.
really wish I'd written that. And the reason is I think Middlemarch is a triumph of perspective and scope, but I think To the Lighthouse is a triumph of experimentation and feminism. So,
Right on. Love that. All right, this is a really tough one for you because I don't know
oh,
anyone that loves books more than you. There may be a few people that love them as much. Is there a movie that manages to be better than the source book?
what a great question that is. And I know, and I've been writing about adaptations a lot lately. So, a movie that's better than the source. You know, I was talking online here. I'm gonna name drop for a second.
Please.
So I was talking online today because I just reviewed David Nichols' Sweet Sorrow, and David Nichols wrote One Day, Us. He's written several other commercial comic novels, if you will, or maybe not comic, but sweet. And he also adapted Edward St. Aubyn's Patrick Melrose novels. Those novels, if anyone doesn't know about them, are so superb. They're so incredibly elegantly written, and they're so complicated. And it is a what is that? A tetralogy? If it's four instead of a trilogy.
Oh, yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought, and this is what I told him because he was thanking me in the DMs. And I said, well, I should thank you for this adaptation. It was so incredible because not only did you capture what is a very, very sad look into a man's recovery from childhood trauma,
Mhm.
but you brought something new to it. Now, it didn't hurt that Benedict Cumberbatch was playing Patrick Melrose, but
That never hurts. All right, we've got like 10 seconds left. Parting words of wisdom for someone that's trying to start writing. What's your nugget of advice?
sit down every day and pound out just 3 pages. Do those morning pages. Writing begets writing.
I have a feeling we're going to hear that a lot too. Bethanne, I want to thank you not only for always being up for a challenge, always being there to pay it forward and back to the literary community. You are the bravest because I think going forward, the subsequent authors in the series will have the benefit if they're interested in checking out some previous issues and seeing what the questions are. You had no idea what these were going to be, and you crushed it. So I knew I could count on you. There was no pressure as far as I was concerned, but very brave of you to step into the lion's den and without a net and have at it. So I thank you so much.
It was great. I loved it.
So we will talk again soon. And by the way, folks, look for more from Bethanne. She's also going to be, in addition to her somewhat busy life, she's going to be teaching some workshops for 1455, and we'll be rolling out a lot more information about that very soon. So stay tuned. Bethanne, thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon, my friend.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.